Hi, Dan here, hope you're doing well. In this bass lesson I've got 15 quickfire bass gear tips for you. Let's start with using a foam mute. Listen to this. That's the bass unmuted. This mute's got a foam and a sponge side. You can use anything, you really can. But you just place it down by the bridge right here and it just dulls the sustain a bit. Gives you a really great tone. Try that. I used to have a Hartkey kickback combo which you could tilt backwards so you could just hear it a bit better. Mark Bass uses similar contraption that you can do that with some of their amps as well. But if you position your amp properly, and this is one way of doing so, then you won't have to fight all the other instruments and you'll be able to hear yourself brilliantly on the gig. Speaking of gigs, if you're on your third or fourth set of the night, you'll appreciate this tip, which is to get a wide strap. This is a comfort strap. It's padded and it's wide. I bought this years and years ago. I've got a number of different brands, but I always go for wide straps because you don't get the bass focused on one area of your back. This can really help you out. Another gigging tip, if you've got your strap like this and your cable coming out of your bass like this, it's very easy for you or someone else to step on it and it will just come out. So loop it around the back of the bass like this and over the strap. And if you plug it in there now, the angle of the strap going away from you is going to ensure that your cable is going to stay in the bass. If you have an active bass, then you'll need to change the battery every now and again. Now, if you're anything like me, I always forget when I put the battery in. So write the date with a Sharpie on the battery itself or use some masking tape and do it on that. Then you'll never forget. Now, that cable I showed you just there, this is one that stays in my studio. This is an Evidence Audio and it's a very expensive cable, but I've been using it for 10 years and it's just great. This is a Providence cable. And this is the next tip, is don't skimp on cables. Buy good cables and take good care of them. It really does help in the signal path that you have as a bass player, I think. So invest in good cables and learn to coil them properly. So here, you don't want any torsion. So I'm just looping it round like this. I'm making sure that there's no twists or anything in the cable, and it's just, you'll find a natural way that it wants to kind of go around. You see there? I know this is really sort of nerdy and really geeky, but you know, when you are spending money on cables and you're doing lots of gigs, I've seen shocking abuse of gear from musicians. You want to take good care of it. You know, now it's like that, you can put it away and that's going to last you years. I was talking to a bass player last night about setting up basses, and around here there are different people that do different setups, different costs. And it got me thinking, I think you really should learn to do basic setups on your own instrument. I use two guides. One is Roger Sadowski's and another is the Fender guys, and they both have a YouTube series. I'll put a link below. It's worth investing a bit of time and a bit of money in the tools to be able to know what to do on your bass to dial it exactly into how you want to play it. That will involve a truss rod measurement. Don't worry, it's not that scary. It will involve adjusting the bridge and also the intonation. Okay, anything like fretwork and polishing, you know, filing a new nut, things like this, you know, I might take that to someone, but at least doing those, you're gonna have no fret buzzers, you'll have the bass feeling exactly how you want to play it. That's a brilliant thing to learn to do. This is my Music Man Stingray 5. It's actually been my main gigging bass for the last 20 years. And the reason I use a 5-string is it's just really versatile. If I'm doing a show in a pit band, in a theatre pit band, very often stuff goes below E. If I'm doing a covers band, you might have songs in the key of E flat. So for example, a classic one is Superstition. Now for me, I'd rather have access to those notes without using a hip shot or without tuning down. The other thing is transposition is really easy with a 5-string. So, you know, what if someone calls you to do that down a semitone? Very easy, you just shift down. You can just very easily find your way to different keys with a 5-string, plus having access to those low notes. So depending on what music you do, what type of a bass player you are, a 5-string can be an excellent tool. What bass you have is completely down to you. There's so much choice these days. But you really can't go wrong with a Fender, either a Precision or a Jazz, but I would probably go Precision. Just as a recording bass, as a bass that fits into lots of different styles, as a bass that lots of people know the sound of, it's also a looks thing. There are so many bands that will just feel reassured if you turn up with a Fender Precision rather than a 6-string whatever, you know. So the right type of bass for the right type of gig is a thing, and you really can't go wrong with a Fender. If you only have to get one bass, get that. 2, then get a Fender Jazz, a Fender Precision. But I'm not knocking any other basses. There are so many incredible makes out there, a lot of them styled on Precisions or Jazzes. Go with what you like. Go with what's in your budget. You just can't go wrong with one of these. It's kind of related to the setup thing I was talking about, but here I've got just one bag that has got all my different tools for setups, and, you know, annoyingly different basses require different tools. I know that it's all in this bag, and I've even got like some writing here about this is about my Zoot bass and what all the different knobs do and everything like that. So I just tend to find it's better to be organized. Keep it all in one place. If I need to make any tweaks or adjustments, I know just to go to this bag. If you're using overdrive or distortion, make sure that you have a pedal that on it has some sort of a blend function to have the direct signal in with the affected. Another thing you can do is use something like this, where you have a dedicated blender pedal, where you can have the effect and then blend the direct back in. That way you're not losing any low end. A similar concept to that is to use a loop pedal to put all your effects in. That's what I use live. And it just maintains my low end, and then when no effects are being used, my signal path is preserved. It's very clean. It's basically bass to amp, and then whenever an effect comes in, I switch it on in a loop, and that's just a really clean, good way to do it. This is kind of a 2-in-1 tip, really. If you struggle with the 34-inch scale length of a normal sized bass, or you've got small hands, then you can consider a short scale bass, which is usually 30 inches. Now this is a 1960s Framus bass, and this is sort of the second part of the tip, is to consider a hollow body bass. They just have a tone that's really different from anything that you would know from solid body basses. These have got flat wound strings on them. They've just got a very different tone. It's not applicable to every style of music, of course, but especially if you're recording, loads and loads of professional bass players use a hollow body bass of some description on recordings. Just the odd song you can use it on, it just sounds absolutely brilliant. So that's sort of hollow body / you know, maybe consider a short scale bass that has a great tone. I would show you my Justin Meldal Johnson Fender at this point, but it's in the shop getting some new pickups. That's a good one to check out. Relatively cheap, sounds awesome. I'll keep hold of this bass for the next tip, which is to experiment with different types of strings. So these are flat wounds. And this Stingray, I put some ground wounds on it. They're kind of a hybrid. They're stainless steel round wound strings that are shaved or ground down a bit until you get this halfway point here. You get a dark tone, and that is the thing to experiment with strings. You get tape wound, those black ones, they're quite dark as well. And then you've got bright stainless steel strings, great for slap, great for rock. So depending on what tone you want, you might want to experiment using some different strings. So this bass has stainless steel strings, brighter sound if you have a plectrum. You know, that's an excellent tone for rock. Let's stick with this bass and this plectrum for the last tip, which is a Bobby Vega tip. So this is the plectrum he uses. It's a 0.73 Dunlop, the yellow one. And you know, when you normally play with a pick, you've got the pointy bit showing out like this, and you know, that's the sound. What Bobby does is he uses the fat side of the pick, and you get less of a focused attack sound. You get a bit of a warmer, fatter sound. Chris Squire would put a little bit of his thumb right behind it, just to get a little bit of thumb tone a millisecond after the plectrum tone. So if you're a pick player, even if you're not, use one and experiment with the different sides of it. You get great tones that way. That was a slightly different format to my usual Let's Learn Some Bass videos. If you want one of those, check this video out. If you did like that format, let me know. I'll do some more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.